Hey guys, Ben here and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about my adventures with Superman and a potential DC crossover with live action. So if you do go on to enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos later this year. Okay, so this is coming from my good friend Andy. He has wrote an article for Screen Rant where he has interviewed some people over at My Adventures with Superman. So he's talking with the cast about some certain topics that Andy is interested in, and I think, you know, he's really calling out to me here as well because, you know, they're the types of questions that I think I'm interested in and I know a lot of you guys are interested in. So shout out to Andy as always, and link will be in the description below to the Screen Rant article and Andy's various places. So go follow him, do all of that. But we are finally back in England, back in the normal setup. So this week you're going to be seeing some different types of videos as I've been teasing for the last week. I said when I get back I'm going to be making not only DC content, so that is what you're going to see this week. But for now we're going to talk about this and then we're going to move on and kind of mix it up in the next week or so with DC topics, but also other topics like maybe Star Wars, like The Acolyte, or maybe it's going to be like The Boys. We know that they're going to release the new season pretty soon, and then there's also other projects out there there are a lot of other projects out there that are very interesting to me. But for now, let's go ahead and get into today's main topic. So this is how Andy's article goes. The stars of My Adventures with Superman, which is the Superman animated TV show that was released on Adult Swim, share who they would love to appear from other DC media on their show and their hopes of playing their characters in live action, which is definitely something you guys are going to want to stick around for to hear their answers. And so it has nearly been a year since the ending of My Adventures with Superman Season 1, as Warner Bros. Discovery's new animated series of The Man of Steel began a new chapter for the hero on the small screen. With a lot of questions left unanswered, My Adventures with Superman Season 2 is getting ready to finally launch this week. Ahead of the premiere, Screen Rant interviewed the show's leading trio, Jack Quaid, who plays Superman on the show, Alice Lee, who plays Lois Lane, and Ishmael Saeed, who plays Jimmy Olsen. Sorry if I mispronounce his name. But anyway, they talk about what is to be expected in this new season. And as there have been numerous actors who have played their iconic characters in live action, they all were asked if any former Superman Lois or Jimmy actors that they would like to see appear in their series, even as animated versions of their respective characters, and they shared the following. So Andy's question was this: one of my favourite episodes last season was the League of Lois Lanes and the whole multiverse aspect. I'm hoping we get to see that again at some point, if you guys could, because there has been a lot of actors who have played all three of your characters. Are there any Superman, Lois and Jimmy actors you would love to have to come on the show and kind of play their own character in animation as a crossover? Jack Quaid instantly replied, "That's a really good question. Forever ago I did this pilot that never got picked up with David Corenswet, who is about to be Superman in James Gunn's movie. So I just want to work with David again because he's awesome. So bring him here. That's my easy answer," says Jack Quaid. So Ishmael says, "That's a really good question. I would bring myself in it in terms of, you know, him showing up." And then Jack Quaid replied, "Live action Ishmael, playing yourself. I just need that." So yeah, he's talking about playing live action Jimmy. That's what he's suggesting. Obviously that could happen, but I don't know how length this is all going to be because it isn't really a DCU show. This has been made before James Gunn came in and kind of got the reins for all things DC, animated and otherwise. And so Alice Lee replied, "I guess for me, anyone from Smallville world would be cool just because I watched it growing up, so any of them would be super cool. And also Rachel Brosnahan, I think she's amazing, so that would be very cool." So yeah, Rachel obviously is playing Lois in the new live action film, but really the real answer for Alice was actually Smallville. Now that would be very cool if you got any of those returning voices, obviously because this is in animated form. And yeah, I completely agree. I think that would be amazing if any of the Smallville actors returned in other projects. Yes, we've seen them in the Arrowverse shows, we've seen many actors from Smallville show up in different forms and playing different characters, but some are playing the same character. I'm talking about Tom Welling here, of course, and the fact that Erica Durance showed up in Supergirl and played Supergirl's mum at one point. But the article continues by saying, on the subject of James Gunn's DC Universe, Screen Rant also asked the My Adventures with Superman stars if they would ever be interested in playing their own characters in live action through DC Studios' upcoming franchise, and they gave the following responses. So Jack Quaid says, a resounding yes. Yeah, I do in any way. And so he's talking about if it's live action or animation. He says, I think we're all down, yeah. He would love to see that happen if he were to ever show up or be asked to show up in live action or another animated project. He would be there because I think Jack really likes Superman and really likes what he's been doing with My Adventures with Superman. That's the impression I get from all his interviews and everything. He's very enthusiastic, which is always great to hear. Alice replied, also, I think for me, I haven't seen an actual Asian Lois Lane, so to play her in live action, that would be cool. So yeah, a resounding yes, like Jack said. So yeah, that's something we have not seen before. Lois is typically white, she's American, and obviously in this case with Alice, she would be an Asian version of Lois Lane. There is no reply from Ishmael Saeed in this bit, but obviously that would be another big thing if he were to show up. We have seen multiple iterations and versions of Jimmy Olsen before. Obviously the Macabre Brooks version of Jimmy on Supergirl was a groundbreaking casting choice, and he did a great job. He broke the mold for Jimmy Olsen and what Jimmy was supposed to look like. Like in the comics, he is this tiny, kind of super white looking ginger kid who has a camera, and that is what Jimmy Olsen is. So with Macabre's casting, they completely inverted what we expected of Jimmy Olsen. So I think now that's opened up the kind of pathways for all these different characters to be cast in different ways. So I don't think casting an Asian Lois Lane is all too far out of the picture. Like, it's totally reasonable. Yeah, there might be some backlash by some major comic book fans who just have to have their characters in a certain way. We all know there are people out there that are absolutely thinking like that when they're hearing a comment like this, but yeah, I would support it. I would like to see Alice Lee in live action, but for now there's not much space. Obviously they're talking about crossovers here. Could there be a crossover or not? Yeah, there's always a possibility because they're playing animated versions of the characters, and if somehow the DCU gets linked up to My Adventures with Superman, you could potentially bring them into live action, like what they're doing with Creature Commandos, having the actors show up in various projects later down the line, but in live action instead of animation. So I think this is a really good question from Andy, and he draws some good answers out of them. So it goes on to say in the article how My Adventures with Superman could cross over with James Gunn's DCU. So Andy says, while Gunn's DC Universe is getting started later this year, DC Studios has already set up the possibility that My Adventures with Superman could at some point cross over with Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters of the DCU. And he says, one of the foundations established in 2023 is that the DC Universe will be interconnected across live action, animation and video games, as I mentioned earlier in the video. So if an actor gets cast to voice a character in the DC Universe related project, they are automatically being tapped to play their live action counterpart for the most part, as far as we know. So even though My Adventures with Superman wasn't initially conceived to be part of DC Studios, there is no reason why the same roles couldn't apply to them, where any of the voice actors could play their live action counterparts in the multiverse based storyline if that were to eventually happen. And so I agree with Andy, that could happen if there is a multiverse storyline. Just right now at the start of the DCU, I wouldn't expect any big crossovers, just for the fact that they are trying to build a new universe. They don't want to live off the old universes, and I think the best bet My Adventures with Superman has in terms of crossing over or connecting to the DCU is if James Gunn wants to take it in and have it be part of his animated universe that he's going to be starting off with building with Creature Commandos. And so it continues like this: once the DC universe gets further established, while My Adventures with Superman gets deeper into its run, it would be fascinating to see the show crossover with Gunn's world, given how My Adventures with Superman has already tackled the multiverse concept. That type of storytelling is already an organic plot for them. So with My Adventures with Superman continuing to grow popular, it wouldn't be shocking to see how the show could potentially get involved with the DCU later down the line. So what do you guys make of this? I think it's very interesting, and that's why I made this video. I thought, this is interesting. Like, could we see this linked up with the DCU, but also, you know, seeing them in live action? Is that possible? Could it happen at some point? Now, I'm not saying any of this is very likely. I think it's quite honestly more on the unlikely side, but I just wanted to bring it up because I think you got to ask those questions, and I think Andy's drawn some good answers out of the actors, and yeah, it's made for a good video, so hopefully you've enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to leave a like and a comment. That would really get this video out there. Also subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos, but for now, you can click on the top right corner of the screen to watch my latest video, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.